everyone, Sam here for Samantha K Crafts. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this rusty journal. Now hopefully by the time this video gets uploaded I will have found a photo of it or the journal to take a photo of. This was something I made quite some time ago. I really loved it, but in amongst moving from the commercial unit back to a home studio and having to try and pack up ready to move and stuff like that, stuff has gone astray, and I also cannot find the photo that I took of this to go with the video, and the photo that I'm sure I shared at the time when I sort of made this, so I might not have a decent photo of it to show what it actually turned out like, but I think you'll get the idea, and more importantly you'll get to sort of see some different techniques and different sort of ways of doing stuff. Again, like some of the other videos that I've been uploading recently, this is an older video that I'm just getting around to doing now. That doesn't mean techniques have changed. I mean, well, techniques are changing and being adapted and whatever all the time, but that's the fun of craft. But I still do these journals. In fact, I do lots of different sizes of these journals. I think this one was the original because it's an older video. Like I said, it was shot quite a while ago. It was the original size of journal, so it's just a bit smaller than A5, but I would probably recommend, if you're going to get one, to get the A5 one, because it's a much more workable size in the sense of if you want to put paper in it, you can just sort of fold an A4 sheet in half and it fits in perfectly with a gap around the edge. But really easy to work with. When you're working with MDF like this, it's really easy. You can see that I put the paper down. I didn't draw around the paper to cut it out. I literally held the MDF journal down and I used my knife to cut around the edge of it. That is the beauty when you're using something like MDF. If you were using card, you would have to be careful doing it that way, or you'd have to draw around it first, because you could potentially slice into your sort of journal cover itself. With MDF you're highly unlikely to do that, so it acts as a great rule and a great guide for you to sort of cut the edges. So that's what I've done. I've picked some 12 by 12 paper that I liked. I have cut it down to size, and I have, as you can just see, measured and now cut down a strip that's going to go across the centerpiece. Now, if you don't want to use the holes for binding or whatever else because you're going to stick stuff in or whatever, then you can leave this strip covered up there. In a minute you will see I will poke the holes through, so I can still bind it if that's what I choose to do. But the most important thing you can see here is I have left the hinges uncovered. Now you can cover the hinges, but if you do not glue on the actual hinges, sort of glue either side and the paper go over it. That is because if you end up getting glue in the hinges, it will not work like a hinge because it will be stuck together. Also, remember to leave extra, because when you close it, it will not close. If when it's laid flat, you laid a sheet of paper in it and stuck it down, you will then not be able to close it because there's not enough paper within it to have that movement to go around. So you have to sort of leave it almost not saggy, but you have to leave excess around the spine for it to close. The easier option is to do what I have done here, which is just leave the hinges uncovered, paint them to then blend in. As you can see already, this is the first coat of gesso that I'm putting on, and it's already starting to blend in with what I've done. However, with this project, everything ends up getting painted and lots of colour on it anyway, so it really doesn't matter. The hinges really will be pulled in line with the rest of the book. But even if you were going to just keep the pages just as they are, not paint over them, just using your sort of pattern paper, just painting the hinges will be enough to do it. One thing to bear in mind, again, as with any MDF, this is a good quality MDF. It doesn't absorb the same as some of as a cheaper sort of quality MDF, but these are cut areas. These are areas with gaps in. If you overload it, they may warp and you may damage them. So less but with more layers is better than one big layer. And as you can see, when I dried it, make sure you close the journal or close the book so that you can dry in the spine as well. Because the other thing is, if you leave it laying flat and then you dry it and the paint's sitting in the gaps, again, the paint's going to act like a bit of a glue. The paint will end up drying in them gaps, and it'll make it difficult to flex it, or could potentially break it when you try and flex it. Whereas if you close the hinge or close the book, it opens up the hinge and you can dry within the gaps in the hinge. So you end up drying it properly. And like I say, little but more layers is better than one thick layer when it comes to sort of doing the hinge. As you can also see, what I did there was I went over the rest of the paper with the gesso. If you haven't got gesso, use a white acrylic or a white poster. Any white paint really will do you. Again, the reason I am using gesso here is gesso is a great base. It's a matte finish. I prefer matte finish to shiny finishes, which you'll get more of a sort of shiny finish with an acrylic paint. Gesso adds a bit of a sort of tooth to it, that chalkiness sort of texture to it, which I like, that sort of texture. So really, it is up to you what you use. Please don't feel if you haven't got something that I'm using in these videos you can't do it. There are plenty of other ways to do it. It might just have a slightly different effect, but then that's the joy of craft. That's the joy of how every project is different. You can see that I'm using a pokey tool to poke the holes through. And I also used a sanding block to just, where I push the paper through and it perhaps you get that little bulge of paper on the other side, use a bit of sandpaper to take it down, tear it away with your fingers, because I'm going for the tatty sort of look. You'll see in it at the end, this has sort of an old sort of look to it, so it doesn't matter if it looks a bit tatty around there. But once it's all painted up and rusted up, you will see that the balled up paper around their edges, rather than a perfectly neat circle, actually works far better, because it looks like, when metal gets wet and over the years it starts to rust, and generally with rust comes bubbles. It bubbles first and then sort of rusts. Well, you'll see at the end on some of the close-up shots, around them holes, it looks like bubbled rust. And that effect is created by using that pokey tool to poke through and not making it perfect and neat. So, it's not always about being perfect and neat. That roughness that's left around them holes, it may look rough and ragged now, but it actually fits with the theme when it's finished. So just bear that in mind with some of your projects. How they look at this stage is not how they will look at the end. And sometimes the rough and ready sort of look to something can actually make, make for a better project at the end, or a better look at the end. Okay, so as you can see, with the gesso, I'd put on a coat all over, and it was just to sort of bring the colour of the paper down and bring the hinge in and sort of make it all sort of similar. Now I am adding this green, and it's quite bright, but it won't end up this bright. But you can see I'm quite, I was going to say tight, but frugal with my paints, and some of these paints can be expensive. This is Deco Art, and it's a fluid medium, so it's quite liquidy anyway. If you don't have this, that's fine. Use an acrylic paint or something like that. If you find your acrylic paint's a bit thicker and wants to go on thicker, just put it on your mat and spray it with some water and mix the water in. The joy of paints nowadays is where they don't tend to be oil based and they tend to be water based. We can add water and it will loosen them up and they will still look great. So, any colour that's sort of similar to this. It doesn't have to be as bright a green. This is just to get that verdigris effect underneath. And again, you can see I'm not painting it all. I am being a little bit careful around the edges and sort of, instead of painting all over, sort of doing the edges sort of separate as such, but that's only because I don't want to get too much in on the other side. So I'm hoping when I flip it over, it'll still be relatively clean on the back for sort of the next layer. It doesn't matter too much. However, you can just a quick note. You can see it's jumped here all of a sudden, and it's now very dark. Now, my battery died whilst I was filming this, and I had applied all of the next layer before I realised it had died. So this was that bright green colour, and the only thing I have done is add the antiquing cream, the grey sort of colour antiquing cream from Deco Art, I have added all over the top, and I've just given it sort of a thin coat all over the top and then let it dry a bit. And now I'm using a wet baby wipe or a wet cloth to knock that all back. That is all I have done. So that real bright green is lost instantly as soon as you add this on, and even when you're knocking it back, it doesn't go back to that really bright green. You know, it still keeps that balance of being a much sort of darker colour. So yeah, I apologise for that. I mean, all you have missed out on is seeing me just finishing off the green and then applying this sort of grey or dark antiquing cream all over it. Again, if you don't have an antiquing cream, I mean, the antiquing cream's nice because it's a product designed just to come off in this way easier. But if you don't have it, again, a black or a grey acrylic, water it down a little bit, put it on. Don't let it fully dry before you then wipe it off or start wiping it off in areas. And remember, here I sort of covered the whole thing and then I'm trying to knock it back. Really, ideally, what I should have done is perhaps one side, knocked it back, then done the other side, because you'll get a better take-off effect. It is a little bit more forgiving because it is an antiquing cream. If you were going to use an acrylic paint or something to do the effect with instead, I would definitely recommend do it a section at a time, because you don't want it to dry out too much before you try and take it off. Otherwise you would have in effect painted your item black or grey, whatever colour you've done it. So there are other ways to do it if you haven't necessarily got these products. Don't panic, and you just keep taking it back until you're happy with how the colour is and how it looks. And don't be afraid. You take too much of the black off, add a little bit more on. Don't take enough of it off and it looks too dark. Okay, add a little bit of the green over the top of it, and then add the black back on top of that when it's dry, and then knock it back. You don't have to be afraid. And when it's MDF, you can do that, because you can layer it and you can keep layering it. Or if you're that bothered by the amount of black on it, don't look right, sand it back. You might find once you've sanded it back, you absolutely love it, just sand it back and don't want to do it, anything else to it. Or you could add the green on again, and then, this is the joy of MDF. This is why people shouldn't be afraid of MDF, because it really is forgiving. I'm using 2 what I call rust colours, which is iron oxide and quinacridone gold, I think it is. But again, ochres and some sort of burnt umbers or nice red sort of colours, not bright reds, but sort of darker sort of reds. Any of them sort of colours, again, great. But I've just taken a little bit. The main places I've put it is on the hinges. And I've put some other little patches, throughout the book or over the journal cover. And where you can see that I'm sort of swiping it like that, what I'm actually doing is I'm actually doing it really lightly. So I'm sort of putting it on the brush and then I'm kind of holding it away and just brushing really lightly and sort of bringing it closer so that it's not going on there heavy. And it's just to create that rusty look, that aged look, something that's sat around for a while sort of look. So this is what I was saying about the hinges. Them hinges now blend in perfectly with the book. You didn't need to put paper on them. They blend in perfectly with the book and they look great. The reason I've put paper on the book, because you could think, well, why do you need paper on the book? You don't need paper on the book. I could have just painted it this colour and I could just do that. But what I like is that you can see them pictures coming through. Now, on the camera, you can't see it as much as in real, which is why I'm really hoping by the time I upload this, I can find a decent photo or find the journal so that I can take a photo of it, because you can see the birds and the butterflies and whatever else coming through, and you can see them underneath that colour. They're there, but they're faded and they're covered by all this age and all this history and all this sort of stuff that's happened to this book, this journal. And so that's why I use paper. Now round the holes, I am using some of the oxide colour, and as you can see, and again, this is what I mean by it looks like bubbling rust, you adding the rusty colour around it, and I'm adding it around it because, you know, you'd get water gathering where there might be screw holes, or where there's holes, or, you know, the water would drop in it, and then as it would slowly run out, that would be where it makes it rusty. I mean, there's a rhyme and reason behind why the rust is there. But like I say, just adding a little bit to make it look like over the years stuff's run down and it's rusted it really sort of adds to it. But like I say, where I've poked them holes through, but not being too precious about making it look flat and perfect where the holes are, it does look like bubbled rust. And again, I'm a bit gutted that you can't see it that clearly in the video. This was my old video camera, which isn't the clearest of cameras, and you know, it wasn't as close up as it could have been, but it really does look like bubbled rust. And it looks, you know, for me, these are the things that excite me when it comes to crafting, is when you sort of, you know, you make something look old, or you can make, you know, this was remember this at the start, it was a plain piece of MDF. Now look at it, it's got a story behind it. It's got a bit of age behind it. But by the way, if you heard that noise, that was my chair, not me. I think I said that in my last video, and it makes like I'm sounds like I'm making excuses, but I'm not. That was the chair. Is a creaky chair. It probably doesn't pick it up on the microphone, and now I just look like I'm nuts. But that's another story. Yeah. So, you know, that's what I love about stuff, when you take something that looks one way and then you make it look, you know, you make it look old and aged and different. I mean, look at that. It looks like rust. It looks like rust has bubbled, and this is old, and this is sat around somewhere, and this has got history, and different people have opened it and looked at it over the years. And, you know, it's great. Like I said in one of my other videos, it is great to have a story behind your projects when you're doing them, because I think that really does help to sort of inspire that creativity in us, and really does sort of give us a better idea of where to go with things. Now I'm just using a texture stamp, and this is sort of like a scratches. I'm not using it on a mount. I don't tend to use these sort of stamps on a mount. I'm not using the whole stamp. I'm just using bits of the stamp. I am just using it on a black. I think I realised that the black is a little bit too dark on the journal, and instead of looking like they are actual scratches, they look more like a stamp on there, and that's not what I want. So I then started to get some ink on there and stamp it off on a piece of paper first, so that I'm doing sort of more secondary stamping onto the actual journal, so they do look more like scratches than like I've stamped something on there. You know, if they're shiny and jet black, one, a scratch wouldn't be shiny and jet black, and two, you know, there's no age to it. It just doesn't fit with it. So something looking pristine and proper on there as such is not going to look right. But as you can see here, these just look like scratches. Now, if they look a bit too black or a bit too, you know, too much what you want, rub them like you see me doing in here. Rub it with your finger to sort of knock the colour back a bit, or smudge it a bit, or, you know, there's lots of ways to save stuff, because sometimes you don't know what these things are going to look like until you try them. And then sometimes you try them and think, oh, wish I hadn't have tried that. So, you know, don't panic while it's still wet, rub it back. If you still not happy, put a bit of paint over that area and then knock it back. You know, there's always a way around it. You know, you don't ever feel that you've ruined a project. Some of the best projects that people have created are from happy mistakes, or techniques they find are from a mistake that they've discovered a new technique. So never be afraid to have a go and have a try and have a play. But as you can see now, that's added some real sort of like scratches into this rusty old book now. So it's really sort of adding to that age and that sort of feel of it. I'm getting a bit overexcited here, but I absolutely love, it's crazy. I absolutely love old rusty stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want a car that's old and rusty. Although there is that car, I'm not sure what the company is. Denise might be able to help me out if she watches this tutorial. But there is a car or a like a VW bus that's done up to look. It's not rusty, but it's done up to look rusty all over it, and it is phenomenal. It is fantastic. We see it at quite a few of the sort of craft shows we go to, and it's amazing. Every time we see it, we're like, wow. So yeah, it's not so much I love the rust and the old. I love the making something look like it's not, you know. This was an MDF journal, it looks like an old rusty journal that's had a lot of history behind it and a lot of age behind it. You know, that for me is part of bringing something to life. So now inside the journal, I'm using some raw umber and I'm pretty much dry brushing it. Again, I don't want to paint it. I don't want it to look painted and dark. I just wanted it to be dry brushed. So around the edges, down the spine, dry brushed with the raw umber, just to sort of make it look a bit dirty and grubby. Now I'm going on to the pieces that are going to be on the front of the journal. I am painting them, as you saw, with the raw umber. And I'm just going to give everything a coat. And this is kind of the same as the journal, but I'm doing it the opposite way round now. So the journal was done with like a green and then a dark antiquing cream, and this is going to be done the other way. This is being done with a dark colour and is going to have a light antiquing cream on it. So again, if you haven't got a light antiquing cream, a light greens, like a verdigris sort of colour, anything like that to sort of put on and knock back. And that will help sort of give this old and age colour. And the reason I've done this the opposite way round, they don't look too dissimilar or too different, but it was just to, if there was going to be any slight difference, I wanted there to be a slight difference because this piece is going to sit on top of it. So I kind of needed it to stand out from it, if that makes sense, without really standing out from it. So that's why I've done them the opposite way round. And just so that you can see that whatever you've got and whichever way you do it, they both get similar effects. So, you know, don't worry, you might have the lighter of the colours and the darker in the other way, and you want to do it one way or the other, you know, you can. So this is the antiquing cream. And again, you put it on, you let it dry a bit and you knock it back. If you were going to use acrylic paint, like I said earlier, if you're going to use acrylic paint for it, perhaps don't let it dry as much. Do one piece at a time so it knocks back easier. I've probably on these let them dry a little bit too much. I probably went off and had a cup of tea and a bit of cake or something, knowing me, and let them dry a little bit too much. But it is lifting and it is coming off. You just can't see it that great in the video, especially on the cogs and pieces. When you see a close-up in a minute, you'll sort of see it more. I'm using another texture stamp here. This one's, I think it's called cracked paint or peeled paint. And as you saw from the close-up there, it's fantastic. I absolutely love this. And obviously I'd learnt from the last time not to necessarily stamp directly on because I didn't want it looking really dark and black. So I have been using the ink pad, stamping it off on the paper, and then stamping it over the object. So we've got sort of a cracked look on the heart and the little plaque, and then we've got the scratches on the cogs. Now I'm going to use some of these. There's a toxic one and a hazard stamp. I think these are, if I remember rightly, Andy Skinner stamps. If not, please correct me below if you know what they are. That is just a bit of the oxide paint. Put it on the mat. Put the stamp in it, put it on there. I don't want the stamp to be clear. I don't want it to look clear. I didn't want it to be bright either, so you saw I wiped it off a little bit or dabbed it off with my finger. And I'm doing the same again here. I don't want it to be bright, but also I don't want to use an ink pad in it to be a pristine sort of stamp because it's weathered, it's aged, it's faded. That's how I want it to look. I'm now lightly brushing some of the same colour over my cogs, just randomly in different places. And now I'm going to do it on the plaque, and I will do it on the heart. Again, just to add some of that rustiness colour in there, just to break up the green and the grey. You can see this as a far lighter look and a far lighter finish to it than the journal does. And that's because I've sort of done it the other way around. But then if I'd knocked more back off it, it'd look darker. You know, you just stop when you're happy. As you can see, these are really starting to look sort of aged and rusty and scratched and like they've been around for some time. Again, round the holes at the top, I did a bit more of the oxide colour just because, you know, that's where I feel water would sort of gather. And that's the other thing. It's good to add these colours in randomly and that, but don't forget to get a real feel of something and a real look of something. Imagine where water, if you're trying to create a rusty look, imagine where water would pool. Why do I keep doing these things on video? Pool. Imagine where. Sorry, I am a bit random. Sorry. Imagine where water would sort of pool, and imagine where it would then run down, or imagine where it would then drip and create a channel of water going down it time and time again. That is where your rust would be. That is where the metal would start to be worn away a little bit. That's the places where you want to put them colours on your project. So, you know, just think about it. Have a look at reference photos on the internet. You know, just have a think. And if you don't want to do that, don't. Just put it where you want to put it. It'll still look fantastic. I am using now some embossing powder. This is the Tim Holtz, so the Ranger. I can't remember what it's called, but I think I just showed it on there and I didn't look because I was too busy talking. It's the like shabby chic embossing powder or something like that, or the basically you put it on, you heat it, and then you're meant to rub it off, and that kind of like it takes away the glossiness look to it, and but it remains on there and gives it that gritty sort of textured look, and you can see there that's sort of what it's done. So it's great for adding a bit of, there you go, distress powder. So it's distress powder. It's called distress powder, but it's an embossing powder. But unlike normal embossing powders that you normally put on, let dry, job done. This you put on, heat up, let dry, and then you rub it back off again. But it doesn't all come off. It just stops it just looking like powder on there. It gives it that grainy, granular sort of effect, which adds to the sort of aged look. So I've put a bit of it on the hearts and on the cogs and down just sort of the sides and edges, not right in the centre of the plaque. And yeah, you can see I'm now sort of giving that a heat. And yeah, that's it. So nearing the sort of end of the project now. Because this is the last bit, I'm going to sort of make this bit and then it'll pop on the front of the journal. But like I say, if you're not happy with anything anyway, for like, you know, even at this stage now, if I am not happy with that, it is MDF. Get out some sandpaper, sand it back. Well, first of all, flip it over, do it on the other side, right? You've got two sides for a start. If you mess that one up as well, sand it down, start again, paint over it, start again. It really is that forgiving. You really can just not worry, just enjoy it. So many times, you know, people tell me that they've too frightened to get out, or they're worried they're going to ruin it, or they're whatever. Don't, enjoy it, play with it. That's what craft's about. That's what these pieces are for, is to create projects that you love and you can enjoy creating, and you can relax and enjoy yourself. And yeah, that's sort of what you need to do. So you can see there I glued it on, a good PVA glue, absolutely perfect. I glued all the pieces on in the position that I sort of wanted them. Yeah, glue them on how you want them. Check your layout. You don't have to glue them straight away. You can sort of, you know, just position them and whatever else. And if you want to take the bits off and you're worried you can't remember how to put it back on, take a photo, and then you will remember where it was and how it was. Yeah, and then just stick the pieces on. Good PVA, a wood glue. You know, most of your glues will sort of do it. A heavy body gel, even a medium body gel, you know, whatever you've got to hand, use. I forgot when I said we're nearly at the end of the project. We are nearly at the end of the project, but I did do the inside. So with the inside, I just layered it with some paper. Again, I haven't covered the hinges, and I don't go right up to the edges. Just because I decided not to go right up to the edges. Or if you, for example, have got a piece of paper you really want to use and you haven't got enough to cover it, you don't have to go up to the edges. You know, you can sort of fill it with the sort of, this is with the burnt umber colour around it. But again, I am putting it around it so that you can't quite see that the edge isn't covered, if that makes sense. So it all kind of goes into one, that it's dirty, it's old. this is peel paint. Now I'm using fire brick, distress inks, just to add bits of colour in. I mean, the distress ink, the fired brick, you'd think, oh, why would you use red? But that does give it that rusty, dirty look. I mean, it might be a paper inside, but if the metal on the outside's got rusty and wet, it might have sort of bled through a little bit. Now I'm moving on to walnut stain, which will help darken it down and sort of give it a bit of age. Just have a look what you've got in your drawers, and sometimes the colours that you think that wouldn't work, they do work. So just have a play. I'm just layering it all up on there. It looks, I mean, you can think to yourself, oh, that looks a mess. It does look a mess, but it's not. I know it's not. It doesn't look like a piece of paper stuck on a MDF cover anymore. The edges are starting to blend in like they're actually part of the book, and I know that once there's bits inside that and it covers that spine, it will all blend in and it will look fantastic. So again, just using some sort of scratches and whatever else. I've used a brown ink there, and in some occasions I was sort of stamping it off first. You can see that just adds some marks and scratches and that inside. Okay, so back to the bit that goes on top. Now I've got some little pieces here that I'm going to use to make some screws that go in over the holes at the top, because that is a little plaque that was designed as a hanging plaque, and obviously I'm not using it as such, and I want to cover it. I do actually do screw heads that aren't two separate pieces and so aren't fiddly. They're just one, but they look like they've got that line in them, so they're much easier to use. But this was before I'd done them, and this is what I had, and that's what I was using. But you could use a brad to fill it. There's lots of metal embellishments out there. Actually get a nut or a bolt or a screw, and cut the backs off of them to use on there. Again, you will find something that you can use to sort of do this. Cover the whole plaque in paper first. Use 2 bits of paper to do this. Cardboard. Cut some cardboard out. If you can't cut the line in to make it look like a screw head, cut 2 semicircles like you saw that I had there. Cut 2 semicircles, put one either side of each other, opposite each other like that. You've got your screw head, off of your packaging that you might have ordered some craft supplies in or whatever. You will have something about to be able to create these projects. So just always think what you've got laying about. So again, I've coloured it with the grey. Put a bit of the antiquing colour on. I'm now adding some more of the rust colours around the actual screws, because again, that's where water would gather, would be around them, and then it would slowly run out at the bottom, and that's what would create the rust over the time. And I love it. I love how it turned out. I love how it looks. I'm going to be really annoyed with myself if I can't find a decent photo of it, because like many things, it's always better when you can see the photo of the finished item. It just gives you a much better idea of it rather than sort of in the video, but you will get the gist. So that's it. Deciding where it's going to go, sticking it on. So I've now put it on to the journal, and once you're happy with it, with where it is, again, now I just want to sort of highlight it a bit and make it stand out a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of that rust colour around the edges of where I've added the plaque. So that'll do one of 2 things. One, the plaque is like a sign or a plaque on the book, and water has got behind it and has rusted, and so the rust is running down. So it creates that good effect. The rust colour will also create a little bit of an outline around the plaque, so it will help it stand out from the book a little bit more. But you can see, although they were both done in a very similar way, one with a light colour with a dark on top then knocked back, and one with a dark colour then with a light on top and then knocked back, they look very similar, but they do look different enough that they stand out. But this just will add that extra little bit of depth to behind the plaque, and it will sort of let it stand out. So I'm just adding the red in. I think in a minute I add a little bit of the yellow in, just to break that red up and soften that red. And rusty's never just one colour, you know, it's not just all orange or all yellows or all greens or all, you know, it's a random mix of colours. So yeah, and it's just adding it until you're happy. Hold it up, have a look. I mean, and the other thing with the video as well is when it's laying down like that on the side, the light's shining on it, you can't quite see the colour, so that's why I keep lifting it and angling it towards me, because when different lights sit on it, it looks different, and you'll get a better idea if you of whether you're happy with it or not. When you hold this up and you look at it properly, it looks far better than seeing it sort of laying down like that. You can see here I decided that I wasn't happy with the colour that was there, so like I've said before, go back in, add a bit of the black again. You know, I knocked it then back a bit because it was a bit black, still wasn't happy, so then I added it with my finger because it was softer than adding it in with a brush. You know, because there was too much brightness there, it just didn't look right. Like I said, go in afterwards, you don't need to be afraid of these things, you can just sort of enjoy them. See, this is a different shot now of the video, and that doesn't look as rusty in that as in the video that in the part you just saw, because I started filming this at a slightly different time and the light was different on it. It is exactly the same book, it is still just as rusty, but this is what I mean by different lights look different in different ways. So sometimes, you know, if you work under artificial lights, you might even want to take it out into the daylight, have a look at it in the daylight, see if you like it there. It does look different, I promise you. Colours look different under different lights or or when something's held in different ways. But just to finish it off here, so it didn't look like it was plonked on, I've added the key just to create a bit of balance. It was done in the same way, same sort of colours. The only thing I did before is it was a plain MDF key and I added some texture paste, and the texture paste is what's sort of created them lumps and bumps. I hope you enjoyed the video. I would love it if you would subscribe. If you hit the notification bell, then you'll actually be notified the next time that I upload a video. Take care everyone, bye bye.